Something is already moving beneath the surface of your life before most people even realize the day has begun. And if you ignore the feeling rising inside you right now, you may completely miss why your inner world suddenly feels louder, faster, and impossible to silence. This morning is not ordinary. There are moments in astrology that pass quietly unnoticed by the majority of people moving through their routines. And then there are moments like this, moments that arrive like a shock wave to the nervous system. Moments designed to wake the mind up so abruptly that reality itself no longer looks the same afterward. What is unfolding today morning carries that kind of force. Mercury, the planet connected to thought, language, perception, awareness, memory, and the way your consciousness translates the world around you, is stepping back into Gemini, the sign it governs, the place where its intelligence becomes sharpest and most alive. But this return is not soft, and it is not gradual. The instant Mercury crosses into Gemini at exactly 6:30 in the morning, the atmosphere changes. You may feel it as restlessness before you even open your eyes, or as a strange electrical sensation running through your thoughts, like your mind suddenly refuses to stay quiet any longer. What makes this event so rare is not simply Mercury entering another sign. Mercury changes signs regularly. Most people hear that and assume it means little. But this time, Mercury is reclaiming its own territory, and when a planet stands inside the sign it rules, its energy becomes concentrated, amplified, almost impossible to ignore. This is Mercury operating without resistance, without distortion, without limitation. And the moment it enters Gemini today morning, it immediately runs into Uranus, the planet of radical awakening, disruption, unexpected revelations, and truths that arrive like lightning splitting open the sky. That collision is not subtle. It is the kind of alignment that cracks open mental walls. People have spent years building around themselves. Some people will suddenly understand why they have been unhappy. Others will recognize a lie they have been telling themselves for far too long. Others may receive news, conversations, realizations, or flashes of insight so sudden that they feel physically shaken afterward. Over the next 6 days, Mercury will deliver 3 separate messages through your life experience. And those messages are not designed to comfort the old version of you. They are designed to reorganize the architecture of your thinking itself. This is why your recent mental state may have felt unusual. Maybe your thoughts have been racing at random hours. Maybe memories keep resurfacing for no reason. Maybe you have been sensing something important approaching, but could not explain why. That feeling is not imaginary. Your consciousness has been preparing for this threshold long before today arrived. And once the clarity of this window enters your awareness, you cannot return to the version of reality you lived in before. That is the part many people underestimate about Mercury in Gemini aligned with Uranus. The realizations do not unfold slowly enough for you to negotiate with them. They arrive complete, immediate, sharp, unavoidable. One moment you are confused, the next moment you suddenly see the entire pattern. One conversation changes everything. One sentence exposes the truth. One realization rearranges years of emotional confusion in seconds. It feels almost supernatural when it happens, because your mind suddenly starts connecting dots that previously seemed unrelated. What once looked chaotic now reveals a hidden design beneath it. And the deeper truth is that this did not begin today. Today is simply the moment the pressure finally breaks open. The entire month of May has been guiding you toward this exact psychological turning point, even if you did not recognize the preparation while it was happening. Nothing about the last 2 weeks was random. Every emotional slowdown, every uncomfortable realization, every moment where life forced you to pause and think more deeply had a purpose. When Mercury entered Taurus on May 2nd, your mental energy shifted into something slower, heavier, more grounded. Your focus moved towards stability, survival, finances, values, security, and the physical structure of your life. For many people, that energy felt frustrating. Thoughts became dense. Decisions took longer. It may have felt as though your mind was trapped in slow motion while the world demanded immediate answers from you. But Mercury in Taurus was never trying to speed you up. It was trying to force you to examine what truly matters underneath distraction and noise. Then came May 5th, when Mercury squared Pluto, and the emotional atmosphere intensified dramatically. That alignment acted like pressure building beneath the surface of your subconscious. Conversations became heavier. Certain truths became impossible to avoid. Hidden fears surrounding power, control, money, trust, relationships, or identity began rising into awareness. Pluto does not gently reveal what needs transformation. Pluto exposes what has already been rotting underneath the surface. Some people experienced emotional confrontations. Others faced uncomfortable financial truths. Others realized they had been betraying themselves emotionally for far too long. Then on May 6th, Pluto turned retrograde, locking that transformative energy into place. Suddenly, the emotional discomfort could no longer be escaped through distraction. You were being asked to sit with it, examine it, and recognize what your soul could no longer tolerate carrying forward into the future. And then, after all that internal pressure, something shifted on May 14th, when Mercury aligned directly with the Sun in a powerful cazimi. Astrologers consider this one of the most illuminating positions a planet can experience, because the planet enters the heart of the Sun itself. All the confusion, heaviness, emotional intensity, and buried truth from the previous days suddenly condensed into clarity. You may have experienced a moment where something instantly made sense. A realization may have arrived out of nowhere. A decision that once felt impossible suddenly became obvious. It was as though the fog finally lifted long enough for you to see the truth clearly. And now today morning, Mercury enters Gemini, carrying all of that accumulated awareness with it. But this time the energy no longer moves slowly. Now it accelerates. Now the realizations spread like wildfire through the mind. Now the truth begins speaking faster than fear can suppress it. And this is only the beginning of what this window is about to awaken inside you. That moment of sudden understanding you felt days ago was not random, and it was not your imagination trying to comfort you. That was the cazimi moving through your consciousness, burning away confusion that had been clouding your judgment for the past 2 weeks. It gathered every emotional contradiction, every delayed decision, every fear you could not fully explain, and compressed all of it into a single point of awareness, powerful enough to change the direction of your life. What once felt tangled suddenly became visible. What once felt emotionally impossible suddenly revealed a path forward. And now tonight, as this Taurus new moon rises before today, morning arrives. The universe completes the final stage of preparation. This lunation is not passive energy drifting through the background. It is a reset point, a grounding force. A moment where the realizations awakened through the cazimi begin anchoring themselves into the physical structure of your reality. Think about the deeper meaning of that for a moment. Awareness alone changes nothing if it never becomes embodied action. The Taurus new moon exists to take what was discovered mentally and begin planting it into the material world. Intentions become tangible here. Desires stop floating in abstraction and start demanding form. You may notice yourself thinking differently about stability, money, security, relationships, or the future you want to build. That is not accidental. Everything leading to this point has been calibrated with precision. First, your mind was slowed down, then it was pressured, then it was forced to confront truth, then it was purified through the cazimi. Then the Taurus new moon arrived to ground the insight into reality itself. And now today, morning, comes the ignition. At exactly 6:30 in the morning, Mercury crosses into Gemini, and the energetic rhythm of your consciousness changes instantly, not gradually. instantly. Some people will physically feel the difference the moment they wake up. The mental fog disappears. The body feels electrically charged. Thoughts begin moving faster than they have in weeks. Conversations sharpen. Patterns become obvious. Information suddenly connects in ways that previously felt impossible to process. But what makes this moment extraordinary is what happens next. Mercury does not quietly settle into Gemini and slowly unfold its energy over time. Less than 14 hours later, at exactly 10:08 at night, Mercury forms an exact conjunction with Uranus at 1 degree and 14 minutes Gemini. This is where the atmosphere becomes explosive. Imagine the ruler of thought, communication, logic, and mental processing operating at full strength inside its own sign, then colliding directly with the planet of awakening, rebellion, shock, revelation, and radical change. That is not ordinary astrology. That is a lightning strike hitting the architecture of the human mind itself. And this alignment carries the first of 3 messages destined to reshape your reality over the next 6 days. The first message is unmistakable. Your mental world is awakening at a completely different frequency. Uranus does not gently introduce change. Uranus breaks patterns apart so quickly that the old version of reality cannot survive the impact. And when Mercury merges with Uranus inside Gemini, the sign associated with speed, intellect, language, and rapid information exchange, the result becomes overwhelming for people still trying to cling to outdated ways of thinking. This is not simply creativity. It is not ordinary inspiration. It feels more like your brain suddenly unlocking rooms that were hidden from you before. Thoughts appear fully formed. Answers arrive before the question is even complete. Solutions emerge from nowhere. You may experience moments where it genuinely feels as though information is being downloaded directly into your awareness. And the strangest part is how familiar those realizations feel once they arrive. Instead of feeling new, they feel remembered, as though some deeper part of your soul always knew the truth and was simply waiting for the right energetic moment to reveal it consciously. That is the power of Mercury. Conjunct Uranus. It bypasses slow intellectual processing and moves directly into instant knowing. But this intensity comes with consequences. Your nervous system is not accustomed to sustaining this level of mental electricity. Some people may feel overstimulated. Others may struggle to sleep because the mind refuses to slow down. You may feel restless, emotionally charged, unable to stop thinking. For some, it will feel exhilarating, like suddenly becoming fully alive again after months of emotional numbness. For others, especially those resisting change, it may feel destabilizing. The difference depends entirely on whether you allow the energy to move through you or attempt to force it back into familiar patterns. Because the moment you try to control Uranus energy, the experience becomes chaotic. The old mental structures begin collapsing anyway, but now they collapse through anxiety instead of awakening. This is why surrender becomes essential during this transit. You are not meant to force these realizations into old identities that no longer fit who you are becoming. You are meant to explore them without immediate judgment, to let the mind travel further than fear usually allows. And if strange insights have already been surfacing for you lately, if random thoughts keep interrupting your routine, if flashes of understanding arrive at unusual moments, if you feel like your mind has been trying to communicate something urgent before today even arrived, now you understand why. Your consciousness was already tuning itself to this frequency before the transit became exact. Today simply removes all remaining doubt. The first message of this cycle is undeniable. Your mind is being rewired in real time. But the awakening does not stop there. Because after Mercury and Uranus shatter the surface layer of perception, another force emerges only 2 days later, and this next message reaches into parts of your psyche most people spend their entire lives avoiding. On May 19th, Mercury forms an exact trine to Pluto, retrograde at 5 degrees and 28 minutes Gemini to Aquarius, and the emotional atmosphere changes again. This is where the process becomes deeply personal. Pluto has never cared about keeping people comfortable. Pluto is concerned only with truth, especially the truth hidden underneath defense mechanisms, emotional masks, avoidance patterns, and subconscious fear. And because Pluto is retrograde during this alignment, its energy moves inward, excavating buried emotions and exposing psychological material people normally keep hidden, even from themselves. When Mercury trines Pluto under these conditions, a direct bridge forms between the conscious mind and the deepest chambers of the subconscious. Suddenly, thoughts you avoided become impossible to silence. Emotional patterns reveal their origins. Hidden motivations become visible. Conversations grow more intense. People may confess truths unexpectedly. Secrets surface. Realizations emerge regarding relationships, power dynamics, money, betrayal, identity, or emotional wounds that have shaped your life far more deeply than you realized. And the reason this transit feels so powerful is because the truth no longer stays intellectual. It becomes visceral. You feel it in your body. You recognize where fear has controlled your decisions. You recognize where you abandoned your own authenticity to survive emotionally. You recognize where your silence has cost you pieces of your identity over time. Pluto retrograde forces honesty at the deepest level possible, and Mercury gives that honesty language. Suddenly, you are no longer just sensing something internally. You can finally name it. And once a truth is named clearly enough, it becomes impossible to pretend you do not see it anymore. What makes this Mercury trine Pluto alignment so powerful is not simply the intelligence it activates, but the kind of intelligence it awakens inside you. This is not surface awareness. This is the kind of perception that notices what people are trying not to say. The kind of awareness that immediately senses when something feels emotionally inconsistent, even if the words sound convincing on the surface. During this transit, your mind begins operating like an investigator searching beneath appearances instead of accepting them at face value. Suddenly, you start recognizing hidden motives, emotional contradictions, manipulation tactics, and subtle behavioral patterns that previously escaped your attention. Conversations stop feeling casual. Every pause carries meaning. Every shift in tone reveals something deeper. Every reaction exposes a layer of truth hiding underneath it. And because Mercury forms a harmonious trine with Pluto retrograde rather than a harsh aspect, the process unfolds with an eerie sense of naturalness. It does not feel violent or forced. It feels like waking up with the ability to finally see clearly after spending years trapped inside emotional fog. You may notice yourself asking questions that surprise even you. You may suddenly want deeper answers instead of superficial reassurance. Certain people around you may become uncomfortable because they can feel that you are seeing through masks they thought were permanent. But the most unsettling realization during this transit may not involve other people at all. It may involve yourself. Because once Pluto opens the subconscious mind, it becomes impossible to avoid the patterns you have normalized for years. You begin recognizing the emotional narratives you repeat to protect yourself from change. You begin noticing the excuses that kept you emotionally stagnant. You begin understanding how fear shaped certain decisions while convincing you they were practical choices. Some people will realize they settled in relationships because they feared abandonment more than unhappiness. Others will recognize they stayed silent because being accepted felt safer than being authentic. Others may finally admit that they have been betraying their own desires in order to maintain control over outcomes that were never truly stable to begin with. Pluto retrograde exposes all of it, but the purpose is not humiliation. The purpose is liberation through awareness. Because the moment a hidden pattern becomes fully conscious, its power over you begins to weaken. This is why these realizations feel so emotionally intense. They do not simply give you information. They dismantle illusions that shaped your identity for years. And once you truly see the truth clearly, you cannot return to unconsciousness again. That is when transformation stops being theoretical and becomes real. The people who fully embrace this transit will experience some of the deepest conversations of their lives. They will finally speak truths they have swallowed for years. They will stop asking for crumbs while pretending they are satisfied. They will stop tolerating emotional confusion where clarity should exist. Under Mercury, trine Pluto, communication becomes stripped down to its essence. The desire for superficial interaction disappears. People crave honesty, depth, emotional transparency, and meaningful connection. But this energy also carries a shadow that must be approached carefully. Pluto governs not only truth and transformation, but also power, obsession, manipulation, and control. The same penetrating insight, capable of bringing liberation, can become dangerous when driven by fear or ego. During this transit, some people may become fixated on uncovering hidden motives everywhere. Others may use emotional knowledge as leverage against people around them. The mind can become obsessive under Pluto energy, endlessly analyzing conversations, investigating behaviors, replaying situations, trying to gain psychological control over uncertainty. This is why awareness becomes essential. The purpose of this alignment is understanding, not domination. It is meant to reveal truth, not weaponize it. You are being asked to speak honestly without turning honesty into emotional punishment. You are being asked to see clearly without descending into paranoia. The second message of this entire Mercury cycle is unavoidable. Truth will emerge, whether you feel emotionally prepared for it or not. The only question is whether you will meet it with courage or attempt to control it out of fear. And once this excavation process reaches completion, once your mind has been electrified by Uranus and purified through Pluto, the final stage of this journey begins. This last message is not about awakening or revelation. It is about creation. It is about what happens after clarity arrives. Because insight means nothing if it never becomes embodied reality. The third message unfolds through two powerful alignments between May 19th and May 22nd, when Mercury forms sextiles, first to Neptune and then to Saturn in Aries. These aspects complete the transformation sequence by showing you how to turn realization into manifestation. On May 19th, at 51:12 at night, Mercury sextiles Neptune in Aries, and the emotional atmosphere softens dramatically. After the intensity of Uranus and Pluto, Neptune introduces imagination, spirituality, intuition, symbolism, and emotional vision into the mental process. This is where logic begins merging with inspiration. The rational mind opens itself to something larger than pure analysis. Thoughts become more poetic. Conversations carry emotional depth. You begin sensing the spiritual significance hidden inside ordinary moments. Neptune dissolves the hard edges of Mercury and allows consciousness to imagine realities that previously seemed impossible. This is the aspect that transforms information into meaning. A simple idea suddenly becomes a vision for the future. A passing thought suddenly feels connected to destiny itself. Artists, writers, musicians, and creators often thrive under this energy because it allows imagination to flow without restriction. But this alignment is not reserved only for creative people. Anyone can access this frequency. It is the ability to imagine a different future so vividly that it begins feeling emotionally real before it physically exists. You may suddenly visualize a new version of your life with shocking clarity. You may understand what your soul has truly wanted beneath fear and survival instincts all along. But Neptune alone cannot build reality. Vision without structure dissolves into fantasy, and that is exactly why Saturn arrives next. On May 22nd at 2 in the afternoon, Mercury sextiles Saturn in Aries, completing the final stage of this process. Saturn represents discipline, construction, responsibility, long-term effort, and the ability to turn abstract dreams into physical outcomes. If Uranus awakened your mind, Pluto exposed your truth, and Neptune gave you vision, Saturn now asks the most important question of all. What are you actually going to do with everything you have discovered? Saturn demands embodiment. It does not care how inspired you feel if no action follows. It teaches that awareness without commitment changes nothing. And because this is a supportive sextile rather than a restrictive aspect, Saturn is not blocking you. It is offering you the structure necessary to build what you have been shown. This is the moment where ideas become strategies, insights become plans, visions become routines, decisions, conversations, and concrete action. The third message is both simple and life-changing. You have now seen the truth. You have felt the awakening. You have imagined the future. Now you must build it deliberately. And this is why this entire period cannot be approached passively. Mercury in Gemini demands movement, interaction, communication, learning, and participation. This energy wants engagement from you. It wants you writing, speaking, thinking, questioning, exploring, and documenting what arrives through your consciousness. The realizations unfolding over the next several days will move extremely fast. Ideas may appear and disappear within minutes if they are not captured. That is why one of the most important things you can do during this window is write everything down. Keep notes beside your bed. Use your phone. Carry a notebook. Because the insights entering your awareness during this period are not random mental noise. They are pieces of a larger blueprint attempting to reveal itself before your eyes. But document what comes through. Have the hard conversations. Mercury, TR. Pluto on the 19th is giving you the courage and clarity to say what needs to be said. Don't waste it. Speak your truth. Ask questions. Gemini energy is naturally curious. Don't assume you know everything. Investigate, explore, challenge your own assumptions. Connect with people. Mercury rules communication. This is the time to reach out. Have deep discussions. Exchange ideas. You'll be amazed at what emerges when two minds operating at this frequency come together. Create something. The Neptune sextile is offering you vision. The Saturn sextile is offering you structure. Use them. Start the project. Write the first chapter. Design the plan. What you must avoid during this window. But just as important as what you should do is what you shouldn't do. Don't overthink to the point of paralysis. Yes, your mind is moving fast, but analysis paralysis is real. At some point, you have to trust what you know and move forward. Don't use your new insight to manipulate. Pluto energy can be seductive. Seeing through people, understanding their motivations, it gives you power. Don't abuse it. Don't dismiss the visions as just imagination. Neptune brings dreams, but they're not meaningless. Some of the most important guidance comes through the symbolic, the poetic, the mystical. Don't skip the work. Saturn doesn't reward shortcuts. If you get the insight, but don't put in the effort to manifest it, you'll watch the opportunity slip away. The full moon brings it all together. May 31st, the month culminates with a full moon in Sagittarius at 9 degrees and 55 minutes. And this is where everything you've learned, everything you've discovered, everything you've built gets tested against the bigger picture. Sagittarius is the opposite of Gemini. Where Gemini gathers data, Sagittarius seeks meaning. Where Gemini asks what, Sagittarius asks why. Where Gemini collects facts, Sagittarius builds philosophy. This full moon forces integration. It asks, what does all this information mean? What's the bigger story? Where is all this leading? You'll feel the tension between details and meaning, between local and universal, between logic and faith. And in that tension, something beautiful emerges: wisdom. Because wisdom isn't just knowledge. It's knowledge plus meaning plus experience. And that's what this entire month has been building toward. The electric awakening of today, the deep truth of the 19th, the visionary blueprint of the 19th and 22nd, and finally the philosophical integration of the 31st. It's a complete cycle, a full initiation. This is your moment. Don't miss it. Today morning, when Mercury crosses into Gemini, the world doesn't change. You change your capacity to think, to see, to understand, to communicate. It expands in ways that will echo through the rest of your life. But only if you're paying attention, only if you're willing to let go of the old way of thinking and embrace this new frequency. Some people will feel this shift and lean into it. They'll have insights that redirect their entire path. They'll have conversations that heal old wounds. They'll receive downloads that turn into million-dollar ideas. They'll wake up on June 1st and barely recognize the person they were on May the 16th. Others will resist. They'll feel the intensity and shut down. They'll dismiss the insights as random thoughts. They'll avoid the hard conversations. They'll let the visions fade without taking action. The difference between these two groups isn't luck, it's choice. You're watching this video for a reason. You found this information at this exact moment for a reason. You're being called to step into this energy, to use it, to let it transform you. Today isn't just another day. It's a threshold. And once you cross it, once you let Mercury in Gemini rewire your consciousness, once you receive and act on these three messages, there's no going back. The old version of you, the one who thought slower, saw less clearly, communicated less effectively, that version stays behind. The new version, the one who thinks at lightning speed, sees through illusion, speaks truth with power, and manifests vision with discipline, that version steps forward. The choice is yours, but the moment is now. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.